Welcome to the deep dive. We're about to unpack a source today that is, well, it's dense, definitely opinionated, and frankly, it throws a lot at you.
It really does.
We've got this transcript excerpt from a YouTube video, and our mission really is just to navigate this material. We want to pull out the key points, understand the speaker's perspective, what they're trying to get across.
Yeah, no matter how maybe complex or even controversial it seems.
Exactly.
And this source, it really doesn't pull any punches. It lays out a very strong worldview, touching on, everything from specific people to huge concepts like media control, politics, even science and religion.
Right. And just to be clear up front, our aim here is exploring and understanding the viewpoint in this source. We're not here to validate it, definitely not endorsing the claims.
Absolutely not. It's got some strong opinions, sharp criticisms. We're just reporting what the source itself says.
Okay, so let's get into it. The speaker starts off by directly criticizing several pretty well-known figures. They actually name people like Dr. Zakir Naik, Sadhguru Mutor Ali, and Dilsora Fuzilova.
And the source labels their views, or maybe their actions, as incorrect or unjustified.
Yes. And then it brings in another figure referred to as Dr. MK, claiming this Dr. MK exposes them.
It's interesting how quickly it moves from these specific people to something much, much bigger. It introduces this concept of a global media mafia or a monopoly.
Right. A healthy monopoly on world campaigns is how they put it. And it doesn't just leave it there. It explicitly connects this media manipulation. It's quite a striking connection to capitalism and Satanism.
Wow. Okay. And looking elsewhere in the source, it also makes negative references to Marxism.
Oh, okay.
So it seems like within the source's own logic, this media control network it perceives is positioned against its own viewpoint. And it's linking this network to several major ideologies, often through this idea of, global manipulation.
Okay, that's quite a framework. Moving on, another really core argument the source makes. It centers on what it sees as a huge problem, this perceived distancing or conflict between science and religion. It uses the terms ilm and din.
Yeah, and this really gets to the heart of how the source views knowledge itself. It's very critical of focusing only on the religious side, the din, while neglecting scientific understanding, the ilim.
So it's not enough just to focus on one?
Apparently not, and it makes this crucial distinction, one it clearly feels is often missed, between just superficial information or maybe just having diplomas, it calls this malumat, and what it calls true, genuine science or knowledge, hakiki ilm.
Okay. So having facts or credentials, that's malumat, but it's not the same as having deep, real knowledge, hakiki ilm.
Exactly. That's the idea it's presenting. The source even links this breakdown, or maybe the neglect of ilm, to how a certain region was shaped, claiming atheism is tied into this history.
And this very pointed comment, almost dismissive, about modern science centers.
Yeah, what was that?
The source claims that in the context of this divide it sees, science centers nowadays are basically considered get lost.
Wow. Okay. That really shows the intensity of the conflict, at least as the source perceives it.
Definitely. And here's where the source starts applying this viewpoint to, more immediate and potentially sensitive global stuff. The speaker argues pretty forcefully that fear is a primary tool.
A tool for what?
For manipulating people, manipulating entire countries.
Okay. And within that framework, information, the word used is abaro, is singled out as a key weapon for this manipulation.
Yes. And the argument is that this flow of information is specifically designed to distract people from what the source considers the real issues.
Right. Distraction. And then it starts applying this theory, this fear and manipulation idea, to specific geopolitical examples.
We see observations that seem to be about Uzbekistan. I'm mentioning Abro Mutor Ali again, referencing a sleepy mentality, and noting actions by a university rector or some cadre figure who the source thinks is trying to save the language and science there.
Interesting. It also draws comparisons or maybe contrasts with Turkey. Mentions science centers there too, and maybe suggests it's hard to get into them. It's a bit unclear.
And there were comparisons made about mentality contrasting Arabs and Persians, as the source sees them.
And it doesn't shy away from some very direct, quite stark claims about specific countries.
No, it doesn't.
can.
It states that Israel is a supporter helper to enemies.
It also brings up Russia, mentioning Putin and the United States, and the source specifically claims America particularly benefited maximally from this excuse.
Which seems linked to the post-9/11 period.
Yeah, that seems to be the context, and that this situation was used, again, to scare the people.
Which fits right back into that larger narrative about fear being used for control, for benefit.
Exactly. It ties back neatly.
And maybe the most direct point on a major global concern, the source explicitly discusses radicalism and terrorism.
Okay. And how does it approach that?
It links it to certain groups or maybe interpretations that, in the source's view, are falsely claiming to represent Islam.
Right. But what's really notable here, I think, is that the source doesn't just state this.
No, it poses a direct question, doesn't it?
It does, a very pointed one. Who is behind the flag of radicalism and terrorism?
Which suggests the source believes there are, hidden forces or motives driving these things.
Absolutely. It ties right back to those earlier points about manipulation and control. It's framed as a question, but within the narrative, it feels more like an implied accusation, pointing towards those shadowy forces the source keeps mentioning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's maybe look at some of the more specific examples and analogies the speaker uses to build their case.
Sure.
The source references historical periods, like the Mamluks, and figures like Tughlaq-Khalini, Yahan, and Muhammad, presumably drawing parallels.
Seems likely, using history to back up the arguments about the present. It also specifically praises certain fields.
Oh, yeah. Which ones?
Mathematics and astronomy. It highlights them as examples of real science, that hakiki ilm again.
Reinforcing that distinction they made earlier, suggesting these fields have the kind of genuine knowledge the source feels is, well, being lost.
Precisely. And then there's that unique analogy it's used to describe accessing understanding, this idea of inner versus outer access.
Oh, right, with the phrase kiravo abi. It's a bit abstract, isn't it?
It is. But it seems like the source's way of saying that true understanding, maybe that hakiki ilm, you can't just get it by looking from the outside.
Right, you need a different way in, a different perspective.
Yeah, like real knowledge isn't just lying on the surface. You need to find the right way in, which is maybe difficult.
The source also has that segment discussing stars.
Oh yeah, that was interesting. Questioning if they actually exist, life on other stars, and how different writers, scientific versus religious, approach it all.
And buried in that discussion is that really specific and honestly kind of peculiar detail.
The stars being sick.
Yeah. The mention of stars being sick, it just stands out as a very odd element within that broader critique of how we understand the cosmos.
It really does. And all of this, it seems to circle back to the source's main critique of, well, modern society.
Right. The speaker suggests society is fundamentally broken. Uses the phrase semi et biti.
Which means?
Roughly, society is finished, or it's over. Arguing it's moved away from this ideal of true science, genuine knowledge.
And instead it's become dominated by superficial information, by fear, by manipulation. That's the picture it paints.
So, okay, stepping back. What do we got here? We've navigated this source that presents a really singular, highly interconnected, often critical view of the world.
Definitely interconnected. It goes from challenging specific people,
alleging this global conspiracy, this media control linked to ideology,
to sees a fundamental crisis in separating science and religion.
Argues fear and information are deliberately used for political control, applying that theory to various countries.
Yeah. And even asks who's really behind radicalism. It's quite a sweep.
It is. And what's compelling, I think, is seeing how this specific perspective, pulled straight from this one source, weaves together such different elements into a single narrative.
Yeah. And understanding this viewpoint, I mean, even if you completely disagree with it,
right,
it offers a unique look into how some really complex global issues are being perceived and talked about, at least in some online spaces.
It really underscores the importance of engaging directly with the content itself, doesn't it? Even when it's challenging, just to grasp the full range of viewpoints actually out there.
Absolutely.
It really does. And I suppose it leaves us with a thought to maybe carry forward. In a world that's just saturated with information, how do you distinguish between what this source called information and true knowledge? And according to this specific viewpoint we just explored, what forces might be actively trying to stop you from making that distinction? Makes you think, doesn't it?